All right, welcome everyone to Paketo Working Group meeting. Yeah, Emily, thank you for that. I will hands down the CNCF thing and stuff. All right. Yeah, feel free to add yourself to that in this list. If you don't have the meeting note handy, let me share this with you real quick. Feel free to add yourself there to the list. I will do same. There you go. Okay, so could we have a note taker for today? If not, I can do it, I believe. Recording already in progress. To any new faces? Well, besides Chris, I don't think so, right? No. Arjun, for me, you are a new face. I'm sorry if you are not, but welcome and really glad you joined Arjun. Daran, and really sorry because I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it well. Okay. Cool. So outstanding RFPs. There you go. Source removal Buildpacks. This here. Any updates around this?
I think this has sufficient approvals at this point.
Yeah, I think the only question is this has been labeled with the utilities team. I know we have, the full steering committee here, but do we want this to be a top level RFC, or should we be getting the utilities maintainers reviewing this? There's some overlap there, but I don't know if it constitutes majority.
What will be the next steps for this RFC? It's a different label or?
No, I think just getting some approvals from at least a couple of the folks who are on the maintainers list that aren't myself and Emily and Dan. This would be Tim and Forrest and David and Arjun, looking at that list.
Okay.
I can ping people directly, see if I can get their feedback. But I see at least 2 thumbs up. I think that'll actually put us over if just the 2 of the people who thumbs this up said they're going to approve it.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Next one, secure runtime environment.
I think this is still waiting on Sam to address some feedback, and I know he's out on vacation for a couple weeks, so I don't know if we're going to hear back in the near future here. If we thought it was urgent, I'm sure he wouldn't mind if someone, took over this and made the updates. But if we don't feel like it's urgent, I think we can just wait for him to come back.
Any objection? No. Okay. Image retention policy.
I feel like I was being the holdout on this one, but I thought about it more, and I'm pretty convinced that Dan is right, and getting our policy in place early will help us do this sustainably in the long run. My only request at this point is that we include the dependencies in there too, because I think all the same rationale applies.
It seems reasonable, but I don't know anything about that. So it'd be nice to have someone from that team chime in and give thoughts.
I think in most of the cases, the dependencies support basically aligns with the like upstream dependencies support windows. So things like when node falls out of support for like the actual node maintainers, we would then no longer support the node dependency. The problem for this, I think, is like there are some dependencies that are supported for like a really long time. I want to say like, for example, like Ruby, I think is one of these. I think they support their stuff for like upwards of like 3+ years. I don't know if there's other dependencies that are supported even longer than that.
I would assume at some point there you're sort of rolling to a new patch of the same line though, right?
Yeah, but basically they just are, they're like supporting, you know, the 3 last minors, and they come out with a minor basically every year. And so you'll see like a security patch on like a minor version from 3 years ago that we arguably would support.
It seems like maybe if we, you know, if it's about which build packs are using the dependencies, right? If they're only being used by, if every build pack that was using it is now going to get cleaned up, then we could clean up the dependencies. Or do we have, because I don't think we sort of provide them as an independent consumable. I mean, technically we do, but I don't know if we want that to be our intention, right?
We don't do any cleanup. All of the dependencies are perpetually stored in the S3 buckets that we maintain.
Yeah, seems like that is eventually gonna, you know, be a problem, right? Increasing costs forever.
Bucket maximum.
Yeah.
What it sounds like the policy would have different rules for dependencies, since there are different kind of, like you were saying, ways to track this. Do we want to amend this proposal to include like the descriptions of what the plan would be for dependency management as well? Or do we want a separate RFC to define that?
I think it makes sense to do it all in one place because they might like tie into each other.
Okay.
And then also that would affect sort of the mitigation strategies we propose to people.
Yeah.
Right now, at least for the, you know, our build packs download these dependencies. So if we're saying to people, you know, you can relocate the build pack image if you want to pin past 2 years. Well, that doesn't work so hard if we delete the things it depends on.
Right.
So you'd have to, you know, go through the steps to make an offline version and relocate it if you were insisting on pinning. Although hopefully this isn't a world that we ever end up in.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Along that train of thought, it seems like we might want to have different retention policies for like builders and run and build images, because they would have different possibly life cycles, I guess, than the build pack itself. And right now, I think this proposal just kind of lumps every image type together. It doesn't differentiate between those. Does that seem like something we'd want to break out as well? Because I mean, at that point, we could have a similar thing like, you know, we keep all the Ubuntu images around till that version is gone, you know, or something like that.
Yeah, because arguably, if you're going to support something like a version of Ubuntu then you're looking at supporting it for at least the LTS window that Ubuntu has support for, which is 5 years.
Yeah.
We're very quickly getting to a point where like an image retention policy isn't really like it's like more of an abstract concept than like something that really matters, because we retain images for so long that you're just going to have like effectively infinite corpus of images anyway.
I feel like for the Ubuntu stuff though, like, yes, there's, Bionic is maintained for 5 years, but we're constantly putting out new versions of the Bionic run image. And I don't think one of those that, has several critical CVEs and came out more than 2 years ago needs to be retained. Like
That's fair.
my instinct is that the same retention policy will be okay here, but we should probably call it out explicitly.
Okay. I can do that.
I think we should also talk about, maybe this is what we're verging on, but when we tell people to rely on a mutable tag, so like, it's the builder base and we expect people to keep using it. I think we can clean up old things that used to be at the latest version of that tag after a certain retention policy, but we should talk about when we would be open to totally removing one of those tags. And I think we should be more cautious about that. But, I definitely intersects with the retention policy, right? If the latest one ends up running afoul of our retention policy, then
Yeah, that was one of the edge cases called out, was like, what do you do when there is no newer image and that image gets older than, 2 years or whatever the policy says. And the way that it's in there right now, I believe, is that we will keep that until there's an official announcement of basically that thing being retired. And then I don't know, I remember what it was, 6 months or a year past that, then we would cut it. We would drop it.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, that sounds like I got some rewriting to do. And if someone from the dependency team wants to chime in and help with that, I would appreciate it.
Rewriting sounds strong. We just got to throw in some nods to the dependencies and the other stuff, right?
All right. Thank you. Okay, next up, Apache Tomcat launch config.
I think we had just agreed to close this one out. It's kind of been
Yeah, I just
redundant.
need to create the issue on against Apache Tomcat on for the option 3.
Okay, cool. I can set that up too. It's not a big deal.
This one will be closed and there is a new issue to be created.
Yeah, if you scroll to the very end of the comments, we have a plan listed there.
Okay.
Yep.
And finally, RC for disabling as well.
I've made the kind of like suggested changes that this is optional, but that there are a set of rules that should be followed if Buildpack opts into supporting this behavior. One of them being they should attach a label onto the image so that it's easy to actually detect if a user manually disabled the SBOM functionality by just inspecting the image's labels. And then I changed the environment variable so that its omission is equivalent to having explicitly set it to false.
That all sounds good. I think this needs me to re-review. I'll try to do that in the near future.
All right. Looks like no more RFCs. Okay, leave CMB updates, questions. Is there any update or question around this?
Don't think there's been any updates since last week. Friday is a Buildpack authors tooling sync if anyone's interested in joining though.
I think you already dropped a link for that in the past. I'll make sure to find it and put it there. All right, final project update.
We should have a Datadog build pack. Hopefully by the end of the week, it'll be 1.0. There's a beta release right now that we have published, but it's looking good. So we're thinking that by the end of the week, we'll have that published. And that supports Java and believe Node.js. I'd like someone that's more familiar with Node to take a look and confirm though. But we have some tentative support there for it.
Great. Anything else? Yeah, from my side, I will be triggering a health assessment. You know, for projects, open source projects initiated or maintained by VMware. There's a set of guidelines that define the health status for an open source project. And I believe that the first or the best way that I have found so far to see where to start and where to continue the good work you've been doing for the project is to actually compare the current status against the baseline and see where we are doing good, where we need support and help. And that will also help me lay out a plan for increasing community engagement for the project. So I'll be figuring out this community engagement guideline. Oh yeah, great. Community assessment. Just no. Oh. Good. So probably I will ask some really basic questions to you all. Have mercy on me. All right. Anything else in terms of project update? Okay, folks. Thanks so much for your time. See you next week.